WWE legend The Rock confirms that a match against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 39 was locked in and details why the match didn't happen, as well as teasing a possible match against the undisputed WWE Universal Champion at WrestleMania 40 next year in Philadelphia. What is Vince McMahon's current creative power now that WWE has merged with the UFC to form TKO? Details on that, plus speaking of TKO, talent cuts, an update on that, plus an update on which employees have been laid off today. Also an update on Jade Cargill's AEW status and the likelihood of her going to WWE, what her plans could be if indeed she does make the jump to WWE as well. AEW content is reportedly expected to be on the Max streaming service next year, as well as AEW is expected to expand their pay-per-view calendar to 12 events per year. An update on the pay-per-view buys for AEW All In and All Out. An update also on the risk of SmackDown leaving Fox and possibly moving to a different day of the week. Roman Reigns' next WWE match has been revealed, and also an update on why AEW had to make an arena and event announcement so late. It was because of WWE. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. Let's start off talking about this major bombshell revelation by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson regarding plans that were scrapped for WrestleMania 39 for a match against the undisputed WWE Champion himself, Roman Reigns. The Rock headlining WrestleMania against the Tribal Chief indeed was planned to happen at one point. The Rock has confirmed he was set to face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 39 at one point. Of course, ahead of WrestleMania 39 in Los Angeles, many had speculated that The Rock could return to WWE and face his cousin, the undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns, in a major dream match. Instead, despite plenty of teasing, the two stars never crossed paths. Reigns ultimately faced and defeated Cody Rhodes instead. However, speaking on the Pat McAfee show today, The Rock was asked how close a match with Reigns at WrestleMania 39 was to happening, and he stated that the bout was, quote, locked, as he agreed to it during a meeting with Vince McMahon and Nick Khan early in 2022. We have the quotes for you here, right here. Let's get them up on the screen right now. He said, quote, "The Rock headlining WrestleMania with Roman Reigns, SoFi Stadium, that was locked. We were doing it. But let me just tell you, so about in the beginning of 2022, Nick Khan, very good friend, he's the man, he was very instrumental in bringing Vince and I together. We all flew to LA, we met, we sat, this was the beginning of 2022, we broke out the Tamarana, we toasted life, we toasted the business we love, and about an hour later, we started talking about the potential of what this match could be between myself and Roman Reigns headlining WrestleMania at SoFi. We shook hands and we hugged right there, all three of us at the table, and said, let's do this. So then we had a year to really think about this. So the North Star thought was, okay, let's not do something good. Let's not do something great. Let's do something unprecedented. It was in what can we create for the fans that has never been done before. A match, great. Roman, incredible athlete. He's going to be on Mount Rushmore. Super handsome, good dude, my cousin, family, amazing. We can have the match, but the bigger thought was, what can we do for the fans and the business that love that where WrestleMania isn't the end of something, it's actually the beginning of something far bigger. Now, The Rock continued by noting that they got really close, but they couldn't figure out how to make the match something truly special. He stated that they agreed to delay it, and the former champion teased that he could be potentially open to wrestling his cousin at WrestleMania 40. He said, quote, "So we got really, really close, but we couldn't actually nail down what that thing was. So we decided to put our pencils down. We agreed, hey, listen, there's a merger coming up. Eventually that will happen. There's WrestleMania in Philadelphia." He then raised the people's eyebrow. "I'm saying that's a potential too. I'm open. But again, let's figure out what that is, because the fans deserve something just incredible and unprecedented. Not only that, but I also want to deliver to the locker room and the boys and the girls back there who are working their asses off off, what can we do to put them in a position where they're part of something that is a new change, an era in this world of pro wrestling. Vince is a big picture thinker, as you know. This is why we've gotten along for years, just trying to think the big picture. So we'll see. So what are your thoughts on that? The report that The Rock is suggesting from his own mouth, his own quotes, that it was locked in at one point, but they just couldn't figure out how to do the match as big as possible. Do you believe what The Rock is saying? Do you buy into what he's saying? Do you think this is a tease for WrestleMania 40? Do you think the match will happen at WrestleMania 40? Considering that it feels like at the moment the plan is to do Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes too. What are your thoughts on all of this? Where do you think this is going? Let me know your thoughts, as always, in the comments section below. Now, lots of people have been talking about Vince McMahon since he's now emerged publicly after the merger between WWE and UFC, returning from medical leave after recent serious spinal surgery as well. And a new update may have shed light on the creative powers of Vince McMahon in WWE following WWE's deal with Endeavor to form TKO being completed. Prior to WWE's merger with UFC under Endeavor officially being finalized on Tuesday, the status of Vince McMahon had been a question mark, with the WWE chairman undergoing major spinal surgery in late July. His recovery from that surgery had meant that he was temporarily on medical leave, not even working remotely as he had been doing previously. However, after being present at the launch of TKO Group Holdings at the New York Stock Exchange on Tuesday, it was also reported that McMahon had been involved with Raw the day prior, making numerous creative changes to the show. In the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer elaborated on McMahon's influence on the show, revealing that it was not his first appearance since he's had the surgery. Meltzer writes, quote, Vince McMahon is back from his leave after spinal surgery and actually has been for several weeks, although it wasn't talked about much until this past week. He was not in Roanoke for the September 11 show, but was part of the production meeting and changed the show multiple times. He has been part of the meetings for weeks now. Meltzer then went on to detail what the reaction from talent was to McMahon's influence and the effect it was having on creative plans for the show, writing, quote, there were changes throughout the day, and the writers kept telling the talent they don't have the final script when the talent wanted to know what they were doing, saying they were waiting for Vince. Another person high up told us that the show needed a lot of work and that some of the changes were also Paul Levesque, Triple H, along with those of Vince, and that the changes were more positive, but the talent was waiting for their final marching orders. While it had been reported prior to the WWE Endeavor deal that McMahon was still having the final say on creative, Meltzer revealed that many talent had hoped that the new company would bring about change to all of this creative process. He said, quote, talent noted to us that Levesque had been in charge of creative, and they hoped with the new company that Vince would stay out of it. Basically, they were told it was going to be Levesque in charge of creative with the new company, and then, previously, and now Vince was back. The reality is that Levesque will be head of creative, but Vince will remain with the final power. Ari Emanuel, who heads the company, put Vince in charge of all facets of WWE. But it does seem as if McMahon's influence has grown further, with Endeavor CEO Ari Emanuel placing the 78-year-old at the top of not only the WWE food chain, but according to Meltzer, even above UFC CEO Dana White in terms of power within TKO. Meltzer continued by saying, quote, Vince's power is such that Emanuel himself said that if there is a disagreement on the wrestling side of the company with he and Vince, he will defer to Vince. Vince's position on the food chain is well above that of Dana White, which is notable because UFC got 51% of the new company, and as far as pure profitability, UFC was far ahead of WWE for the past many years. So the suggestion is that actually Vince McMahon in the new company, TKO, he's more powerful than Dana White, which would make sense considering he's the executive chairman of the board of TKO, whereas Dana White is just the CEO of UFC, kind of similar to how Nick Khan is the president of WWE as well. Now, there was a lot of discussion, wasn't there, today, that today was going to be the day of employee layoffs, which it has been, but were talent involved in the main roster and NXT roster in WWE, were they going to be involved with those talent cuts as well? Well, this is quite interesting, actually. It led to a lot of speculation as to whether WWE talent would also be part of today's layoffs, which we'll get into shortly, but we now have our answer. Per PW Insider, those within the company have said that there are no talent cuts planned for today, with today primarily being about cutting employees who would be considered redundant upon the merging of WWE and UFC offices. The belief among those spoken to is that the WWE roster, production team, on-air talents, and those that work with talent, such as producers and coaches, would not be a part of today's layoffs. Frank Riddick III, who had been WWE's chief financial officer, will be departing the company at the end of September as well, although it's not known if he was laid off or if it was his choice or anything like that. Now, as far as the departures today, we've been kind of getting these through in a kind of drip feed manner, so there might be some that we miss out, some we might confirm tomorrow. Nevertheless, several employees and actually executives have been laid off by WWE today. As reported by PW Insider, WWE's Executive Vice President of Development and Digital, Jamie Horowitz, is no longer with WWE. He had been brought into WWE by Nick Khan in 2021 after working with DAZN. In addition to that, another name has been revealed to have been laid off as well. Per PW Insider, another big WWE departure has been confirmed, with Catherine Newman, WWE's Executive Vice President of Head of Marketing, is also departing the company as a result of these layoffs as well. In WWE, Newman oversaw marketing, brand, community relations, entertainment relations, creative services, and photography as well. She joined the company in June 2022 after working as Chief Marketing Officer of Manchester United Media. In addition to that, per PW Insider, Amanda Bloom, who served as WWE's Director, Enterprise, Master Data, and Governance, is the latest name to be confirmed to have left the company. Bloom had been with WWE for the past 7 years, where she was an important part of the company's technology department. Once again, these are just sort of the latest names that have been confirmed. More names are expected to be not announced, but reported by all of the different journalists. So again, if we get any more information on names that have been let go, we'll let you know in future videos. But what's quite interesting actually as well, now that this merger is completed between WWE and UFC, Dave Meltzer has written a piece in the Wrestling Observer newsletter suggesting that actually the biggest problem the company may face in the future is debt. In the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, veteran wrestling journalist Dave Meltzer wrote that the biggest concern moving forward following the WWE and UFC merger is that TKO Group Holdings has a debt of $3.2 billion because of the money Endeavor borrowed to acquire the UFC in 2016. Meltzer noted that $2.7 billion of the UFC debt is due in 3 years' time. However, he mentioned that the arrangement could and likely would be refinanced. He pointed out that refinancing the debt would come at a cost because UFC had taken out a variable rate loan. Meltzer said the interest rates on the UFC debt increased to $37.3 million in 2022 from the previous year. He added that the financial services companies Moody's is thinking about raising the organization's rating even with the increased debt because of the WWE UFC merger strength. Forbes has described the $2.7 billion debt as a, quote, ticking time bomb. It was announced on April 3rd, as I mentioned, that WWE and UFC would be merging under the Endeavor umbrella to form a new organization. At the time, TKO Executive Chairman Vince McMahon said the new company would become a $21+ billion live sports and entertainment powerhouse. The merger closed on September 12th, with Endeavor announcing the creation of TKO Group Holdings, which is now listed on the New York Stock Exchange. It said that TKO and Endeavor CEO Ari Emanuel is looking to cut $50 million to $100 million in WWE costs, hence the workplace reductions that have been ongoing today. So what are your thoughts on the possible debt that UFC have, and is that going to affect WWE in the future as well? Now, let's switch gears here and talk about some AEW, particularly Jade Cargill, one of the biggest stories this week in All Elite Wrestling. Of course, Fightful Select broke the news late Wednesday night that former AEW TBS champion Jade Cargill is believed to be exiting AEW and headed to WWE. The September 15 episode of Rampage today, where she challenges Chris Statlander in an awaited rematch, could end up being her last AEW appearance. In the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer reported that those in WWE were under the belief that Cargill was indeed coming in on the main roster rather than reporting to NXT. It was also reported that Cargill's name had been talked about a lot in WWE, but that a deal was not yet complete, despite some feeling the news came out of the blue. The money that WWE would pay to sign Cargill is said to be more than a developmental deal. While she obviously possesses the star look and athletic ability, her skill set and experience level are not that of a main roster talent. With that being said, WWE has talent that can help her look better if indeed she does end up on Raw or SmackDown. Cargill would also likely wrestle more matches, travel more, have more exposure to the main roster if she wanted to pursue outside opportunities as well, like acting. After her collegiate basketball career, Cargill did indeed have a WWE tryout in 2019, but she went on to start training under AR Fox, Heath Slater, and QT Marshall, among others. She made her first AEW televised appearance in November 2020, and then had her in-ring debut in March 2021, where she teamed with Shaquille O'Neal against Cody Rhodes and Red Velvet. In January 2022, she became the inaugural TBS champion, and had a 60-0 winning streak until this past May, when she dropped the championship to Chris Statlander at Double or Nothing, her last match prior to her match tonight on TNT for Rampage. So what are your thoughts on the possible plans for Jade Cargill moving forward, if indeed she does go to WWE? Possibly going to the main roster? Should she go to the main roster, or should she go to NXT? Let me know your thoughts about that. Now, this is quite an interesting story as well when it comes to the future of AEW content when it comes to Warner Bros. Discovery. All Elite Wrestling reportedly is expanding to a 12 pay-per-view calendar starting next year, according to Andrew Zarian of the McMahons podcast. Of course, AEW has slowly increased the number of pay-per-view events they do each year, introducing WrestleDream and All In so far this year. AEW currently has a TV deal with Warner Bros. Discovery for Dynamite on TBS and Rampage and Collision on TNT, while their pay-per-view events are airing on Bleacher Report. Many people have speculated that AEW would air its library on the Max streaming service, with AEW and Warner Bros. Discovery currently in deep negotiations to extend their television rights deal. It is currently expected that the promotion will move its library to Max early next year. What are your thoughts on AEW moving to the Max streaming service, at least its library, its content library? Do you think that's a good thing? But also, I suppose the bigger thing here is the pay-per-view calendar expanding to 12, which would be once a month, similar to WWE. Do you think that's a good thing? Do you think AEW will be overexposed? Let me know your thoughts about that in the comment section below. Now, this is quite interesting as well. Many had wondered what the pay-per-view buys would be for All In and All Out, considering they were 7 days apart. AEW All Out took place on September 3rd, 2023, a week after the company's London debut at AEW All In on August 27. Tony Khan had recently discussed having the shows so close together, discussing the valuable live event real estate of the plan. Writing in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer explored the numbers and how having the two shows so close together affected each other, writing, quote, "Some pay-per-view updates. It appears that having All Out the next week did hurt the replay buys of All In. The current television total went from a 37.5% increase over Forbidden Door to a 28.1%, and if those numbers hold true going forward, it's closer to 180,000 buys rather than more than 190,000 buys. It would still be the second largest behind AEW All Out 2021 in company history. All Out is now up to 45% of All In for television and 50% or a little more on streaming. Could be as low as 81,000 total, but more likely around 90,000, and perhaps more based on growth going forward in the next week or two. Of course, there was recently an update on the turnstile count for AEW All In at Wembley Stadium, with it being revealed by WrestleNomics that the actual numbers registered entering Wembley Stadium through the turnstiles was 72,265. This is reflective of what attended on the night, not the total number of tickets sold or no-shows, etc. Of course, AEW had announced a record-breaking paid attendance of 81,035 fans, so much so that Will Ospreay got the number tattooed on his arm. Now, this is quite a fascinating story too. We have spoken about previously that there is an expectation that SmackDown likely will be leaving Fox at the end of its television contract next year and could be going somewhere else, with Disney and Amazon listed as potential favorites to land the Blue brand. With WWE's TV deal with Fox coming to an end shortly, it looks like Friday night's mainstay may be moving home. It was recently reported that Fox had cancelled the out-of-character WWE podcast, with this being seen as another sign that SmackDown will be moving from Fox at the end of its current contract. With Dave Meltzer having previously stated that analysts have believed that for some time, even with the ratings the show delivers, that it isn't cost effective, he has provided more insight in the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Exploring the difficulties of scheduling SmackDown, Meltzer writes, quote, "Something to consider with talk of SmackDown leaving Fox. If it goes to FX, it would be incredibly stupid for FX to air it on Friday. They'd be spending $300 million plus per year for a show that would be doing maybe AEW Dynamite numbers on a Friday, and maybe not even that. If they stay hot, they'll be above it by a little, and if not, AEW will be above it with the advantage of Wednesday over Friday. That makes no sense. For that money, they'll want it on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. If it's Tuesday, NXT has to move to Wednesday or Thursday. If it's Wednesday, it goes against AEW, and that would be very interesting. Right now, that would hurt AEW a lot and hurt SmackDown some. If FX wants to win a ratings war, you go Thursday, but if you want to maximize viewers, it goes to Tuesday or Thursday. TBS could also switch days for Dynamite if SmackDown goes to Wednesday. For WWE, the most convenient day would be Tuesday and moving NXT to Wednesday if their goal is to hurt AEW. AEW and also hurt themselves, or Thursday if the goal is maximum viewership. But that would also have to fit in with what USA wants. But USA doesn't have all these hit shows, so NXT would have to stay on Tuesday. But would they want to minimize their own audience now that the show is growing to hurt TBS? At this stage, with everyone just wanting any audience they can get, probably not. But for production and executives' weekly workload, TV on Monday and Tuesday each week is so much better than Monday and Thursday or Monday and Friday. If they are on Amazon Prime, they would also probably want it any night but Thursday, Friday or Saturday with what they'd be paying. That actually leaves Wednesday as somewhat likely. So, it's quite interesting. Meltzer has recently stated that Disney and Amazon were both interested in securing WWE content under the current rights negotiations. WWE President Nick Khan has also spoke about the upcoming WWE media rights negotiations, saying they're ongoing. ESPN's President of Content, Burke Magnus, has previously discussed the idea of ESPN potentially securing WWE's rights. So, it's very much up in the air right now. What do you think this future of SmackDown looks like? Where do you think it will go? If it leaves Fox, is it going to stick around on Friday, or is it going to move to a different night? And what would that mean for AEW? What would that mean for NXT? What would that mean for a lot of things? Let me know your thoughts about that as well. Now, Roman Reigns, spoke about him earlier with a potential match against The Rock being locked in for last year's WrestleMania. Of course, it didn't happen. But Roman Reigns is set to make his return to WWE after his victory against Jey Uso at SummerSlam in August of this year. The Tribal Combat match saw Reigns retain the undisputed WWE Universal Championship and would lead to Uso joining the Raw roster on September 4. Reigns has not appeared on WWE TV since the August 11 episode of SmackDown. Plans for Reigns' return have now also been revealed, with Dave Meltzer writing in the Wrestling Observer newsletter that, as expected, the next Reigns match will be on November 4 in Saudi Arabia. He'll be back on television in time leading to that show to promote the match. Crown Jewel was recently confirmed to be taking place on November 4 in Riyadh. It marks the return of the WWE to Saudi Arabia, having last been in the Kingdom for Night of Champions on May 27. So, some people are suggesting that possibly this could be a match between Roman Reigns and AJ Styles. Styles has been feuding with the Bloodline recently on WWE television on SmackDown, so he looks like he would be the likely opponent. Finally, a bit of an update when it comes to the struggles that AEW is having with securing arenas or announcing arena dates because of a WWE contract clause. With AEW recently announcing AEW Collision for Memphis, Tennessee on October 21st, it has been revealed that WWE may have had restrictions in place preventing advertising for the show. According to Dave Meltzer's latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, AEW's rather late announcement for the show at the FedEx Forum was due to WWE recently hosting the August 28 edition of Monday Night Raw in the same venue. Meltzer detailed, quote, AEW just announced the October 21 date in Memphis. The reason this date at the FedEx Forum was announced so late in the game is that WWE's contract with arenas calls for no announcing or advertising of dates with other wrestling companies from a certain number of days before the event. So tickets for both aren't on sale at the same time and for a period after the event. Raw ran the building on August 28, so it appears the window is about 15 days after the show before anyone could announce another show. Now, this is not the first time that Meltzer has reported such an agreement being in place between WWE and venues that host their shows, with a June 2023 edition of the newsletter first noting that WWE had such measures in place. So certainly that's an interesting thing to consider for the future, but should AEW just consider running smaller arenas considering their struggle in actually getting people to come to their shows recently in the US? But there you go, guys. This is the latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.